Hi, my name is Cameron Miller, and this is Trinity Place and a reflection for the fifth week of Pentecost. And in this story from Mark that we heard today, there are really two stories that have been woven together, which is a clue that we might want to pay attention to. Although there are a few things that grab our attention first, like a 12-year hemorrhage, a dead girl brought back to life, power surging from Jesus through his robe, miracles, miracles, miracles. Now, I'm more or less an agnostic when it comes to stories about Jesus' supernatural actions. And any supernatural act I have not personally witnessed myself. By agnostic, I mean I do not have to decide one way or the other, did it really happen, until I experience it myself. Think Thomas, if you will. Why should anyone deeply invest themselves in things outside their own experience? It's a recipe for disaster, if you ask me. If we have learned anything along the way, it is to trust our experience and to confirm what we hear with what we can touch, see, think, or at least imagine. So, when you tell me, for example, that you have seen a recently dead person in a dream or vision, I don't think that's so weird. I hear stuff like that all the time. I've even had vague experiences of such things myself. But don't ask me to believe or disbelieve your vision. I'll hear it, I'll receive it, and accept it as part of you, and discover the meaning of it with you. But don't ask me to see your experience as proof of anything, to bolster my own beliefs, or proclaim your experience as an example of how God wants us to vote, or believe in the doctrine of the Trinity, or support a favorite charity. If it's your experience, not mine. When it becomes my experience, when I see my Aunt Elma, then I will account for it and its meaning. That's what I mean by agnostic, not disbelieving, but awaiting a decision. Anyway, when Mark reports these amazing things, I can just leave them on the page. I can observe them, notice in them the details, ponder them, wonder about them, poke around in them perhaps like coals in the fire. But I do not need to make judgments about them, whether they really happened or not. And by the way, I'm not evangelical about my agnosticism with regard to these miracles. If you want to believe or embrace those claims any claim outside your own experience, knock yourself out. But here's something I will wholeheartedly recommend. When we read stories like this one from Mark, don't ask the story a question it cannot answer. Don't ask the story a question that it cannot answer. Did it really happen? Or how could that happen? Or even, what would it mean if that really happened? These are all questions that a gospel story, or any biblical or ancient story, cannot answer. Instead, I recommend we poke around in it, like stirring up those coals, and rekindle a flame. Try to figure out why did the editor of these stories, in this case Mark, tell us this story the way that he or she told it. What we notice right up front about this story is that there was two stories that Mark wove together as one. Why? If we wonder why he would do that, we start seeing things we may not have seen before. When we wander around in that question about Mark's story, something interesting will suddenly dawn on us. Jesus, who was on a fast track, remember, to save the little girl from dying, and not just any little girl, but the daughter of an important member of the congregation, a really big donor, stops and gives personal attention to a nameless woman in the street. Now that's worth noticing, isn't it? Jesus stopped to connect with a nameless woman on the street when the big boys were waiting for him. Now, if you ask me, that's more of a miracle than healing is. If the nose of our interest is stuck in the miracle and questions about whether or how a miracle could happen in real life, then Jesus stopping for that nameless woman in the street, well, that gets lost. And then we miss the real punchline of the story. Stopping on behalf of a street person who has no power and no influence and no ability to improve Jesus' power or influence. Stopping for that person is a miracle even you and I can perform. That's a much bigger deal for you and me than whether or not Jesus could perform magic. Why? Because you and I can't perform that magic. Yet we can stop and respond to people who are otherwise unimportant to us. We are capable of stopping our busy day to address, even if briefly, the smaller, the quieter, the less dramatic needs of those who walk in our wake. We may not be able to fix them or to fix the social and economic circumstances that cause their problems, but we can stop, we can listen, we can treat them like a human being. That's the kind of thing we can notice when we get past the supernatural stuff. Underneath the drama, there lies something that is very earthy, something painfully challenging, something that could be, probably should be, a standard for us. What difference does it make? What difference does it make to what kind of people we are if we think Jesus could perform magic or not? But it makes a whole lot of difference if we take the cue from Jesus and consider that taking the time to stop, even for people who are in the wake of our lives, is an appropriate standard for us to live by. How many times have we stopped, even for people we really how many times have we not stopped, even for people we really love and care about? Our kids, our spouse, the people we work with, our neighbors, people at the grocery store or the hardware store. Now realize that in comparison to a big splashy healing miracle, this is a very homely and pedestrian point. But I also know from my own experience that this issue of not stopping is real and challenging. Small as it is next to a miracle, it feels like it could be pretty powerful. Well, this ain't my story, it's Mark's. So do with it as you please. Miracle or a gritty little reminder to stop, to listen, to act, even for, as Jesus would say, the least of these. Thanks for listening. Have a fun, enjoyable, and safe July 4th weekend. Peace be with you.